This question in particular is in response to my student Kenneth, who was asking about what to be doing in the lead up to the November LSAT test date. So if you've already been studying for several months up to this point, as I imagine many of you have, and you've built that strong foundation, what do you do going forward? Specifically over the next 6 to 7 weeks, what might your study plan look like? I would recommend, if you already have a strong foundation on the basics of the exam, you now work on pacing and endurance, meaning when you can, you do a full-length 5-section exam to work on both your pacing and endurance, perhaps on the weekend, maybe on Friday if you're in college and you don't have Friday classes. And then on the other days of the week, you do individual sections, 35 minutes timed, and then excruciatingly detailed review of those sections and of those full-length exams that you did. And that review looks like the following. Let's say for logical reasoning, for instance, you want to look at, where did your misunderstanding stem from? Was it in the stimulus? Was it in the question stem? Or was it in the choices? If it was in the stimulus, was it about not properly understanding the conclusion versus the evidence, or the subsidiary conclusion, or counter premises or filler, whatever it may be? Or was it in the question stem, misinterpreting the question type, the task they were asking you to solve? Or was it in the answer choices? And if it was in the choices, what was tempting about the wrong answer choice that made you pick it or consider it, and what ultimately made it wrong? And what was discouraging about the right answer that pushed you away from it, and what ultimately makes it correct? You want to do this again and again and again, not just for the questions you got wrong, but for any of those where you were down to 2, you guessed and got lucky, because it could have just as easily gone the other way the next time around. So let's say if you even scored a 170 on your practice test, that's obviously amazing. That puts you in the top 3% of test takers. That's about 10 questions wrong. But there may have been another 10 to 15 questions that you guessed on and got lucky, or you weren't 100% confident in. So that's 20 to 25 questions that you could potentially review. That takes hours. That takes, done right, at least 3 to 4 hours. And that's only spending around maybe 10 minutes or so on a given question, reviewing it. So there's plenty of time to be invested in reviewing. And so people will say, but that means I can't do 3 exams a week, or I can't do 4 exams a week. And the answer is, so don't do 3 to 4 exams a week. Maybe doing 1 to 2 exams a week is enough. And then some other individual sections you do will give you plenty to work on. Then if you want to do non-timed work, you could, if you identify particular trends in questions you're getting wrong, like you determine certain weak areas like strengthening questions or logic games or grouping games in particular, you might do several grouping games by type to drill those. And when you're doing individual games by type, or individual logical reasoning by type, or anything else by type, that is not timed, because it doesn't make sense to time individual games or individual logical reasoning questions. It just does not make sense, because they are not meant to be timed individually. One game cannot be constrained to 8 minutes and 45 seconds because they're not all of equal difficulty. Some games can and should take 12, 13 minutes, like the infamous CDs game from Test 31, Game 2, the game featured in Legally Blonde about new and used CDs. That is one of the toughest games of all time, and there is no way you should be doing that in only 9 minutes if it's the first time that you've seen it. So some food for thought there about what your plan should look like. Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.